So thank you for being here this morning. This is such a great way to launch Women's History Month, so thank you for joining us. I'm going to start with a quote. Let us not waste our talents in the cauldron of modern nothingness, but strive to become women of intellect and endeavor to do some little good while we live in this protracted gleam called life. This call to action from Martha Hughes Cannon continues to hold relevance in our society today as we celebrate sending a statue of this incredible woman to Washington, D.C. to represent who we are as Utahns. Let us not forget to also live up to her words and her example. Today, we kick off Women's History Month in Salt Lake City by living up to Martha's word. I am proud to sign the city's new gender pay equity policy on the first day of Women's History Month. According to a recent report, women working for Salt Lake City government are paid 93% of what men are paid in the same job. This is much better than the state average of 70%, but we must and we can gain equity in pay for women. This policy ensures all the women who choose a life of public service in Salt Lake City, those women who endeavor to do some good, will know their efforts are rewarded equally to that of their male counterparts. With this policy, Salt Lake City will no longer allow systemic discrimination and historic pay disparity to impact future opportunity. Policies like these bring stability to families and communities by helping to close the nearly $7.3 billion wage gap in Utah. A gap which makes it harder for families to pay for housing, education, health care, and to save. Gender pay equity is a family values issue, and as Utah's capital city, Salt Lake City has a responsibility to show others in the state how promoting equity and fairness and diversity benefits our entire community. I hope today women like Martha Hughes Cannon, Dee Dee Corradini, Olene Walker, and Becky Lockhart are looking upon us and smiling, that they see the incredible work that we are doing, and that they see their legacies moving forward. Today, I also want to take a moment to acknowledge another talented group of women who are impacting lives each day in our community, women who I'm sure would make Martha, Dee Dee, Olene, and Becky very proud. As department and division directors of Salt Lake City, these women are literally keeping the capital city moving forward and setting an example for all. Laura Briefer keeps clean water flowing to our faucets. And Laura Fritz, who is helping drive billions of investment into our economy. Vicki Bennett, who keeps our city clean and green, ensuring our waste and recycling is picked up. Lisa Schaefer ensures your potholes are filled and our city fleets are maintained. Kristen Riker keeps our parks and public lands pristine. And Lisa Burnett ensures those dialing 911 get the help they need. Margaret Plain defends the city and represents our values in court. Mary Beth Thompson and Marina Scott ensure our city's bills are paid and that taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. Melissa Jensen works each day to build a more affordable city, ensuring that everyone can find a place to live here. Cindy Gus Jensen provides knowledge to help our city council members represent their constituencies fully. And of course, my colleague, Council Chairwoman Erin Mendenhall, who is a champion of this new policy. It is my pleasure to work with her and to invite her to say a few words today.
Thank you, Mayor. It is an exciting day, and I was motivated to advocate for the city's new gender pay policy by the reality of Utah being fourth worst in the nation for gender pay equity. You know that as the mayor's mentioned, women in Utah make an average of 70 cents for every dollar of their male counterparts, where Latina women in Utah make 41 cents to every dollar of their male counterparts. These numbers are up from historic levels, and they are still unacceptable. I was motivated to advocate for this also to think that my grandmother, living as a single woman working until retirement, lived off of less than 70% for the rest of her life than her male counterparts did. The inequity isn't just here today. We can think about it through the histories of our own families and loved ones. The time is right for us to press for gender equity, and gender pay equity is what we address today. As the council chair here in Salt Lake City, I challenge every city council in this state to examine their own internal equity issues. I think it is a very courageous move for Salt Lake City to examine and to express that we here have a 93 cent to every dollar gender pay equity. Other cities, I'm sure, are in similar positions, and I challenge them to look at policies such as we're passing here today. 26% of Utah's female workforce is the primary or sole breadwinners for their families. This is hundreds of thousands of Utahns that are affected today by gender pay inequity. We seek to resolve that in our own house today. In the Salt Lake City area, we have a female mayor, we have a female city council chair, and we have a female county sheriff. We're all fortunate that these public sector jobs have established pay, but not everyone is so fortunate. The list of excuses and the disparity is long and dubious. Behaviors are entrenched, but no longer do we wait for simple parity on all fronts. Equal pay for equal work. It's that simple. Now we'll be able to have the mayor come up and sign the policy and read a proclamation following that signing.
Before I sign this, and I think you'll enjoy this actually. So, whereas whether historic or unrecorded, the accomplishments, contributions, and stories of women of every race, class, and background have enriched the history of Salt Lake City, the state of Utah, and the United States. And whereas dating back to the early 1900s, activists push for a designation to celebrate women and highlight their historically ignored contributions to the family, our communities, and society. Whereas from the first Women's Day in 1909 grew an international movement coming to fruition in the forms of the National Women's History Project, International Women's Day, Women's History Weeks, and finally, the month-long observance we know today. And whereas through conviction and persistence, women have secured their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, leading more major social change movements, such as the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the civil rights movement, and the #MeToo movement. And whereas women have been trailblazers in Utah's history, such as Martha Hughes Cannon, the first female state senator in the United States, Olene Walker, Utah's first female governor, Becky Lockhart, the state's first female Speaker of the House, and Didi Corradini, the first female mayor of Salt Lake City. And whereas in Salt Lake City government, women serve as leaders in over a dozen departments and divisions, including the mayor's office, city council, finance, economic development, sustainability, public utilities, 911, and more. And whereas Salt Lake City remains committed to equity and diversity, empowering women through policies and ordinances, and celebrating the extraordinary contributions of women in our communities. Now, therefore, I, Jacqueline M. Biskupski, Mayor of Salt Lake City, do proclaim March 2018 as Women's History Month in Salt Lake City. Thank you. I think I'm going to give you the policy. Thank you. You're welcome. Right?
It takes two.
It takes two. We are in this together, and how great is this? So thank you.